dry out, dissipate totally. They're programmed in the Arctic species anyway, can be able to be frozen for long periods of time. I think the biology...
Once a month on a Friday morning at a specific moment, this very important number. In fact, it happened just today.
Just a few moments away from the release of the Consumer Sentiment Report.
The Consumer Sentiment Index is a measure of how ordinary Americans are feeling about the economy. And everyone in the financial world wants to know what this number is going to be. So, on this one Friday a month, traders and financial analysts sit watching their computers, their TV screens, waiting for the results.
Rick, can you hear me?
82.7. 82.7 is the number. And remember now, this is a June preliminary. Why is that important? Because our last...
CNBC reports it at 9:55 a.m. on the dot.
This is Simone Foxman. She's a reporter at Forbes.
Any ordinary person who has a TV or an internet connection can know at 9:55 a.m. and 0 seconds.
Or like as long as it takes for someone to pronounce that number, yes.
It turns out for a very select group of traders, when this number comes out, it is already old news. Because they got the number in advance. 2 seconds in advance. Thomson Reuters, which distributes this number, releases it early to computer traders who pay. Early by 2 seconds. Simone published a story about this at Quartz this week after she got a hold of a legal contract that spells out the details. Simone read us a bit of that contract.
It says, Thomson Reuters will send out the data to subscribers of its ultra-low latency distribution platform for purposes of algorithmic trading at approximately 9:54:58, plus or minus 500 milliseconds.
I love the plus or minus 500 milliseconds.
So 9:54:58 plus or minus 500 milliseconds is promising in a legal contract, we will get you this number somewhere between 9:54 and 57 seconds and a half, and 9:54 and 58 seconds and a half.
Yes, exactly.
So 2 seconds, let me just demonstrate that. That means flash traders get it now. Everyone else gets it. Is that right? That's what you're paying for.
That's what you're paying for.
According to the Wall Street Journal, people who trade with ultra-fast computer algorithms are paying $5,000 a month to get this number.
2 seconds. I mean, 2 seconds. If you sent me the number by email 2 seconds early, it would take me a second to notice that the email had arrived, and then I'd click on it, and then I'd start reading it, and then
2 seconds are up. 2 seconds are already up, right? And this is why these people paying $5,000 a month are not getting this number via email. In fact, they have people who aren't really even getting it at all. What's happening is Thomson Reuters has a computer that's sending this number directly to the computers of the high-speed trading companies. Those computers instantly decide based on the number whether to do nothing or place a bet that stock prices will go up or a different bet that stock prices will go down. Then the computers go out to the market and make whatever trade they want. And all of that, everything I just said, happens in less than 2 seconds. It happens before the rest of the world gets this number.
it's funny to think about paying extra to get this number 2 seconds early, because if your business is making these high-speed computer trades, and this is offered to you, pay us extra and you can get the information 2 seconds in advance, honestly, you really don't have a choice. You have to pay extra to get it early, because if you don't, you're going to be 2 seconds left in the competition.
Not working over the money would be really, and high frequency traders can make money by trading like this.
So it's an art.
It's an art.
Hello and welcome to Planet Money. I'm Jacob Goldstein.
And I'm David Kestenbaum. Today on the show, we are replaying one of our favorites, the crazy story of the rise of high-speed computers, told by one man named Simon. We ask him, what does he think about this story? The man you're going to meet, his name is Thomas Petterfy, and I read about him in this book that came out recently, Automate This. And it's one of those books you think you're just going to skim, but then you just keep reading and reading and reading. And Petterfy's story was so amazing that I went to talk to him, and I asked him to start it. And he started right at the beginning. Petterfy was born in the middle of World War II. He grew up in a building that was partly bombed out, and his first real experience with trading happened when he was around 12 years old. A friend of his went across the border to Austria and brought back something truly precious.
Juicy gun. It was beautiful, yellow, juicy drumsticks. And so he sold them to me for 2 forints for the Hungarian currency per stick.
Petterfy takes the gum, he cuts each stick into 5 small pieces, and sells the pieces to his friends in school for 1 foreign each, making a little profit for himself. Now, Hungary was communist at the time, but this did not go over well at school.
And soon enough, the teacher in the school that a lot of people are sitting around chewing gum. And of course, eventually the principal found out about it and ordered down the office and said, well, where is your communist conscience? And I didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't like the profiteering, he didn't like the gum itself, he didn't like it.
Was that your first time buying low and selling high?
That is correct.
Petterfy eventually makes it out of Hungary and finds a way to get to the United States. He speaks almost no English. This is 1965. He lives here in New York in a Hungarian neighborhood on the East Side. And he gets a job as a draftsman at an engineering firm, which is where he meets his first computer. It's basically a primitive calculator, but for Petterfy, this is love at first sight. He stays up all night programming. And that finally puts Petterfy at the place where he will shape history, the financial markets. He begins working for a trading firm that's interested in computers.
And David, this is really a pivotal moment in the history of the market. You know, it's the early 1970s. Computers are no longer the size of a whole room. They're cheap enough that an ordinary company can buy one. And you have people on Wall Street starting to say, hey, maybe a computer can help me figure out how to make money in the market.
And Petterfy focuses on using the computer to try and make money in the options market. So options are what are called derivatives. When you buy an option on, say, a stock, you don't buy the actual stock. You're buying is guaranteed you can buy that stock at a certain price at a specific date in the future. It's like, whoa, what should that thing cost, right? It's like some weird insurance policy. It's going to depend on the stock price now, on how far off that future date is, on how much the price of the stock moves around. So figuring out what the price of an option should be, that involves math. And at the time, Petterfy says, no one was really using math. So the prices for these things were all over the place.
I mean, nobody really knew what they were doing. In other words, the numbers were, probably had nothing to do with the real value of options.
Petterfy starts trying to figure out a way to calculate what these options should cost. He runs little simulations in a computer. If I sold someone this option at price X, how often does it end up being worth more than X? How often less than X? What is a fair price for it?
It took me about 9 months to figure this out, but once I figured it out, it was a fantastic feeling. And
Because it meant there was a way to price them.
that's right.
David, we should point out here, Petterfy is not the only person at this time who's trying to do this. In fact, a couple economists went on to win a Nobel Prize for some related work they did on options pricing around the time. But this idea, it was not yet widespread, and anyone who had worked out the math had a huge advantage. It's like, imagine that the markets are a whole bunch of people standing around trying to guess how much something weighs, and Petterfy, he's got a scale.
The formula tells him what a reasonable price for an option should be. So then he can look at the market and see, oh, that one's trading for $18, it should be worth more, it should be $20. And if he sees one that's cheap, he can buy it, the price, he can sell it. And this is the beginning of how Petterfy makes his fortune. And I should say here, it is substantial. As of 2012, Forbes estimates his net worth is over $5.4 billion. But at this point in our story, it's 1977, Petterfy is not yet rich. He has his secret formula, but he's got a problem, and it's a big one. At this moment, trading isn't really done by a computer. It happens in the physical world. There's a big trading pit here in New York, and you actually have to be standing there on the floor to buy or sell options. And the pit, it's a mob scene. Petterfy can't bring his computer with the formula in it onto the trading floor with him. So he comes up with a plan. He has the computer do the math in advance. And he prints out all these tables on paper so he can look up what a price should be for a particular option selling at such and such a price. He puts the tables in a big 3-ring binder, and he brings the binder down onto the trading floor with him. So you have to imagine the scene. There's this Hungarian guy with a strange accent, walks onto the trading floor with this big binder full of numbers.
People would not what the heck is that? And so I said, no, you know, these are my numbers that will help me trade, hopefully. They made funny faces and they, you know, they didn't understand my accent. And it was, I didn't feel very welcome there, but they thought I was a good.
And after a few days, the folks in charge tell him, you can't have this big binder of papers. It's too crowded there as it is.
So I started to fold up my papers and put them in the various pockets. And by the end of the day, I was like a madman with all these papers hanging out of all of my pockets, and I had to always wear a jacket in my pockets to put my various papers.
The pocket thing, it works okay. But it's slow though.
And just think about really how slow it is, how crude the setup is. He has to get all this data and enter it into the computer, right? Type it in. Then the computer does its calculations, spits out these tables. Petterfy has to put the tables in his pockets, and so he's got to pulling out the tables on the trading floor, and then he's got to wave his hands around and actually buy and sell this stuff to other people on the floor.
And really, there is no need for him to be involved at all, right? His dream is to have a computer handle everything. Just sit back and watch the money come. But for that to happen, he needs to overcome two obstacles. First, he needs a way to get the data, all the prices from the markets into the computer so it can do its calculations. These are still really early days for getting a live data stream, but there are these things called quotrons. I actually remember seeing one of these in an office at a bank. Keyboard attached to an early
another key moment. I mean, we take for granted today that sure you can go to any computer, your computer, and look up the price of any stock. But Petterfy, in order to do this, he had to hack into the quotrons. He actually had to cut the cable and like bolt it into his computer.
Yeah, today you would just like type in the stock, you had to get like an oscilloscope and a soldering iron, all this stuff. So now he can get the data in, but to act on it, to buy or sell options, that still has to happen manually. So he hires a bunch of traders, and he works out a clever system so they don't have to carry around pieces of paper. He and his engineers build what are kind of like proto iPads, tablet computers that will tell the traders what to buy and sell. I saw one of these things in his office. It looks like something that might have flown on an early moon mission. It's this like metal box screwed together. It's got a touch screen on top. It looks very experimental, and it was.
There were problems, like they were driven by lithium batteries, and one of the boxes exploded on the trading floor, you know, went up in big smoke, and people said, this is dangerous.
So Petterfy here is using computers to trade, sort of, but it's definitely not yet computerized trading. It still has to have people with these exploding proto iPads who have to go wave their arms around and holler at the trading floor. And Petterfy is still dreaming of the day when he can finally take these traders out of the loop.
This finally happens in March.
to my office, you know. And he calls back and he says, look in your Nesta group. It says that orders have to be input via the keyboard. And you're not doing that, you're just splicing in the wire. So this is not good, you're violating the rules, we're giving you a week to correct this rule violation.
1 week.
So this was a problem.
Better if he thinks, talks it over with his engineers, and they come up with a solution. The rules just say buy and sell orders have to be entered through the computer. So Federifi's team builds machines that does that.
It was basically made a rubber fingers that were typed.
Built a robot to type in the trade.
We built a robot that types.
Federifi is very pleased. For him, this kind of highlights the absurdity of the situation. And a week later, the official at NASDAQ comes in.
I triumphantly show him our creation. I tell you, he opened his mouth and never closed.
Big sound like unusual.
That was the only problem with it in Allentown. So you could tell how much activity there was in the market because it was acting like crazy. Machine gun. People started to wear not earmuffs, but earplugs.
And in the next years, in the 1990s, computerized trading gets locked. You didn't have to build a typing group. The exchanges started to allow Federifi and others who were trying to do this just to plug their computers right into it.
And this brings us to where we are today. Now, according to an estimate by the Tab Group, half of all stock trades are done because an algorithm told the computer to buy or sell.
Federifi today is one of the big players. The company he started called Interactive Brokers. It does electronic trades on a mind-boggling scale. The company has two parts. One is a broker, basically, that lets people do trades quickly electronically. The other part does what's called market making. When somebody wants to sell a stock, say, their computers will buy it, then turn around and sell it when someone else wants it. You don't make a lot of money on every trade, but you do lots and lots of them. Federifi says automation has done some very good things for the community. In the olden days, back when you needed people to do all your trades, those people charged you a lot of money to do that.
For example, at Interactive Brokers, the average commission we charge on a trade is $4 and 5 cents or something like that. So it's very, very cheap compared to, 20 years ago, if you wanted to do a trade, it would cost you $50 or $60. So the savings are humongous. It's really huge.
Commissions, what he's talking about there, are definitely lower, and this is better for everybody. There's real social value to this. Like anyone who's ever bought and sold a stock, anyone with a retirement account, they get a better deal in a lot of ways. The financial markets now, they are like very well-oiled machines.
Okay, yes, there are some benefits from this, but, if the markets are now well-oiled machines, they seem like well-oiled machines that keep rushing off the road at high speed and crashing into trees.
That is true. The most famous case was back in 2010, something that's come to be known as the flash crash, where the stock market momentarily went totally haywire.
5 even offer contact, 4 even start trading out now, 3 even start trading out now, 3 in the video now, you're going to get a low rate of 11.03 even.
This is Ben Lichtenstein, who runs a service called Traders World.
92 even start trading here now, guys. 91 even start trading. 89s are trading. 88 pounds are trading. 87 even start trading.
This was a very crazy move. Some stocks started trading for just pennies, some went crazy high, and then somehow it all went back to the Securities and Exchange Commission put together this 104-page report that was and not surprisingly, it was due to computerized trading. Federifi remembers the day this happened. So where were you when the flash happened?
I was right here. I was sitting by my machinery here, and I just couldn't believe what was going on. I picked up the phone and I said, "What's happening?"
The next thing Pettify said was a little surprising. I kind of expect guys like faster is better, more automation is better. But he says we've reached a point of absurdity. Everyone is trying to go faster and faster and faster. Meet the next amount of time.
We are computing milliseconds. And whether you can shave off 3 milliseconds order has absolutely no social value.
In fact, it may be making the whole system less stable. It's certainly making everything more expensive for everyone. Companies that trade, his included, have to keep spending more and more money just to be a tiny bit faster. Now you have to put your computers physically right next to the stock exchange. You have to think about sending signals with lasers instead of regular wires. Companies are also talking about laying new optical fibers underneath the Arctic Ocean in a particular direction, just so people who pay for it can get trades to European or Japanese markets a teeny bit faster.
It's basically not unlike the arms race used to be against the Russians 20 years ago or 30 years ago, right? It's the same question, right? Who builds the bigger bomb? Who builds more of them?
So how do you put a stop to that, though?
That's the question. That's the, you know, it's an interesting situation. It's a situation where I do not quite see how this will resolve itself. It's to the benefit of, I don't see how it will resolve itself to the benefit of the marketplace. Let's say, quandary.
Pettify is in favor of some more regulation that will build in some safeguards and, in the process, slow things down. The challenge will be, of course, that people will always try to find a way around the rules. There's always someone willing to build a robot that types.
As always, let us know what you think. You can email us at planetmoney@npr.org or find us on the blog at npr.org/money. We're also on Twitter and Facebook.
We are indebted today to Christopher Steiner, the author of the book Automate This. In it, he describes Thomas Pettify's story and more. We'll put a link to it on our blog. I'm David Kestenbaum.
And I'm Jacob Goldstein. Thanks for listening.
Coleman, President of Africa, where he met family members of Nelson Mandela today. The White House says he won't visit the South African leader out of deference to his comfort and the family's wishes. But Obama says Mandela remains a personal hero.
The outpouring of love that we've seen in recent days shows that the triumph of Nelson Mandela and this nation speaks to something very deep in the human spirit. Speaking alongside Obama, current South African President Jacob Zuma said Mandela's condition remains critical but stable. The 94-year-old has been in the hospital for 3 weeks for treatment of a recurring lung infection. A 21-year-old American student was among those killed in Egypt during violent clashes Friday between government supporters and opponents. NPR's Allison Keith.
Officials identify the victim as Andrew Driscoll Proctor, who was set to graduate from Kenyon College in Ohio in 2015. In a statement, his family says Proctor was in Alexandria for the summer, teaching English to 7- and 8-year-old Egyptian children and working to improve his Arabic. The family says he was witnessing the protest as a bystander and was stabbed by a protester. Proctor's family says he went to Egypt because he cared profoundly about the Middle East, and he planned to live and work there. Kenyon College says Proctor was an intern at a Mideast, an American nonprofit organization. People are posting condolences to a Facebook page noting his passing. Allison Keys, NPR News, Washington.
It's 112 degrees in Death Valley, California right now, and getting hotter. The National Weather Service has issued an excessive heat warning for parts of the West. Forecaster Mark O'Malley is in Phoenix, where he found out just how hot it's getting.
We actually did an experiment yesterday, and we actually baked cookies in someone's car, and it took about 3 to 4 hours to get very nice tasting chocolate chip cookies yesterday.
It's supposed to hit 120 degrees today in Phoenix and Las Vegas. By the way, the world record for the hottest temperature ever recorded was set in Death Valley in 1913. It reached 134 degrees. The two couples at the center of the case that effectively ended California's ban against same-sex marriage have now gotten married. Earlier this week, the Supreme Court let stand a lower court's ruling that found the marriage ban unconstitutional. Opponents of same-sex marriage object, saying California acted too quickly in allowing gay marriages to go forward and should have waited for a 25-day reconsideration period. Police in Massachusetts have arrested a second man in connection with a murder linked to former New England Patriots player Aaron Hernandez. Now 3 men, including Hernandez, are in custody. Police have not said which man is accused of firing the shots that killed Odin Lloyd, a Boston semi-pro football player. You're listening to NPR News. British Prime Minister David Cameron is wrapping up an unannounced visit to Afghanistan. NPR's Sean Carberry reports Cameron spoke with President Karzai about a number of issues, including peace talks with the Taliban and Britain's long-term commitment to Afghanistan.
Prime Minister Cameron says Afghan security forces have made great progress and that British combat troops will be home by the end of 2014.
Until recently, we were in 130 different patrol bases. We're now in just over 10.
Cameron says the UK will continue to provide support and training for Afghan forces, but the country's future depends now on holding successful elections next year and negotiating peace with the Taliban. Karzai says while there's no date set for peace talks that were scuttled last week, he's hopeful the Taliban will come to the table. Sean Carberry, NPR News, Kabul.
Riders set off on the Tour de France today on its 100th anniversary. The cyclists began in a harbor town on the French island of Corsica. The image of disgraced cyclist Lance Armstrong is present. He gave an interview to a French newspaper this week saying it's not possible to win the Tour de France without doping. Armstrong was stripped of his 7 Tour titles after confessing to doping. Civil War buffs and reenactors are gathered at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. They're marking the 150th anniversary of a major Civil War battle there. The Union Army forced back advancing Confederate troops. Thousands of people gathered on a private farm near the battlefield to reenact the engagement. It was one of the bloodiest in the Civil War, with up to 50,000 American casualties. I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR.
Clock on the wall says it's Flora o'clock time. Hi, Flora Lichtman is here.
Hi, Heather.
Our video.
That's right.
consumers and energy and sustainability on the personal level. Sort of the perfect segue, actually, to our video pick, which is about a couple in Snohomish, Washington, so outside of Seattle, who have built their own home. But here's the thing. It's really small.
Really small?
Really, really small.
How small is
It is 140 square feet, so it's about 20 feet long and about 7 feet wide, and everything's in it. So you have a sleeping loft, so it's about 1.5 stories. The kitchen is underneath that, along with the bathroom. The rest of it is the living room. The workspace folds out. Tables sort of go down to the wall and then can be brought up. And there you have it. It all fits, but there's not a lot of open spaces in it.
Yeah, so if you want to, and a couple of people live in the house, right?
Right. Chris and Melissa Tack are the people who built and designed the place themselves. They're 29 years old, and they said that one of the things that they liked about it, I think is actually emblematic of this generation, they didn't want to have to put down roots in one place. So here's the solution. You build your house on a trailer bed, and then you can take it with you.
You got the hitch right there.
That's right.
And, but theirs is sort of stationary at the moment.
Right, so they've got it parked, they're renting land, and they have it parked there, and I think they've been there for a while now, and, they rented the land while they built the house, and, there are a few sort of interesting, neat little considerations. One thing that they did that I thought was kind of cool was, for insulation, they used a sort of natural wool insulation. I had never seen that before. But anyway, you can get all of the nuts and bolts of living and building one of these tiny houses on our website.
It's our video pick of the week is up there tonight, Friday night. Now also on our YouTube channel we have on YouTube. And yeah, in the video you see, I think it was him, he was demonstrating where the wool is coming out of the wall. Because he said, why put all this fiberglass in there? I don't want to sit here breathing in it.
Right, so the cost of this house, so one thing is that the cost of a tiny house is going to be higher per square foot because you're sort of packing in a lot into a small space. So there are a lot of windows. One of the things that's really nice about being inside the space is that it was much brighter than almost any space I've been in because the number of windows per area was huge.
So you don't feel like you're closed in.
No, you don't.
Spot.
No, you don't feel like you're closed in. And in fact, this was one of the things that we asked about. What do you do